Hello, Broderick Wallace here, and there's this quite groovy way of making YouTube videos now, actually these talk ones for me, which is to use voice recorder. I could do this on video as well if I wanted, to be honest. Use voice recorder and then just hit pause if you need to think a moment, because I've always enjoyed not planning out too much, just knowing what I'm going to talk about and then letting it roll. I think it's has a kind of organic quality to it. But I do want to make some kind of documentary at some point. Bearing in mind, it was just a couple of years ago I was talking about doing interviews. That was like a fantasy that happened. So I suspect that some kind of documentary type film will emerge at some point in the future. Probably rough around the edges, like all my stuff, but in that arty way, I like to think. Anyway, so why have I hit record? I've hit record. You might hear the rain as well, actually. It's one of those nights. You know, I just had a dream, actually, where the rain took on a role. You think we just had a dream? Yeah. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I was asleep a little while, and then woke up again. And this dream got me thinking. Like, to quote, I do have a few Martinisms. You'll have to forgive me. I thought, wow, it's, you know, when you have a teacher, you end up nicking a few of their catchphrases or their mannerisms. It's just inevitable. So I thought, wow. Isn't it amazing how the subconscious and the entire extended realm that it is connected to would be able to intuitively construct a symbolic sequence of lived images, almost like a movie, like dreams are, and it would be perfect. It would tell me, don't do this. In fact, we'll show you doing such and such, and we'll show you the outcome without explicitly dealing with the actual fact of the matter, entirely symbolically. Dreams are amazing things, and so I shall take that advice on board. Perhaps it's already a sign of a solidification of the will in that direction. Stop waffling, Broderick. Okay. Sorry. Right, so the reason I hit record, the real reason, is to make a kind of part 2 to the nothing, just do it video, because I was in meditation yesterday, and we deal with meditation mostly. Why do we do that? Why do we do that mostly? It's all about respect. It's all about restraint. This is the way things go. I'll tell you something now. This is how to tell who's not genuine. Are they posting a load of inane and often jokey or inappropriate bollocks all day, every day on Facebook? Do they talk directly of the mysteries as if it's something that you would just discuss, you know, with your mates at work? That's how to tell people are not genuine, because they're too precious, they're too special to be violated in such uncouth ways. So we will handle this in the usual fashion through the concept of meditation. Now, when one is clearing the mind of all thoughts, as I was, sometimes you get a complete knowing. The complete knowing was the video that I'd made with a gap in the middle. And that gap was strategy. It suddenly occurred to me, I love that phrase, it's so common amongst us new age weirdos. I suddenly realized that, of course, strategy, this is what happens. People always try to formulate a strategy towards the emptying of the mind. What does that do? It complicates the issue. Because when you sit in meditation, this particular meditation, the idea is to have nothing going on within the mind, and whatever is going on is being perhaps forcibly, perhaps in a relaxed way, combination, different days, different techniques, just depends on, you know, the state of mind, if you like. The idea isn't to fill the mind up with this whole complex strategy of, first of all, I feel this, you know, kind of area in my brain that deals with this, and then I shut that off, and, you know, I've made sure that I've cut this out of the day and that out of the day, and blah, blah, blah. It's like this whole thing that you've written down. It's like, oh, more thoughts. That might work for other things, who knows? But I tell you what works more often than not, in my humble opinion. And that is, well, I will say the best way of explaining it is to transpose the notion of, I guess you might say, muscle memory, but also the instinctual, the right brain instinctual learning mechanism, if you could call it that is hidden from normal consciousness. In other words, how you just get better at things without really knowing without formulating it, without writing a list. Because that's, even if the right left brain analogy is not entirely correct, I like it because we know what we mean. So the left brain wants to make a list. And I have noticed that most people that get interested in this world are male, and as men we are usually more interested in structure and form, whereas the lovely females tend to be more interested in people, emotions, social situations, that kind of thing. Of course, the world is a mixed bag of all kinds of different people, so if that doesn't tally with your experience, remember to be truly engaged with your practice by practicing the art of not taking offense. This would also relate to the behavior of the ingenuine. I'm not talking about the odd mistake, I'm talking about constantly being offended and constantly demonstrating a dis-ease with reality on a daily basis. Anyway, I am the tangent man. It's how it's like foreplay in a way. I just gradually, like, you know, kiss the toes a little bit, and, you know, you think I'm getting there, but, you know, it's like, oh, what lovely hands you have. Let me kiss those a while. So let me pause here a moment to rethink this intuitive learning, and I'll be back at you instantly. Yes, accessing the nothingness to achieve progress. So the example I can use from personal experience is learning to play the guitar. When you first see people in bands, and it always felt like, who are these people in a completely different parallel dimension, but a different dimension where they can actually get band members who are stable, and people actually get together and write music and learn their instruments and organize this whole thing. But that's another story. Anyway, so when you see these guys who are whittle-diddling all over the fretboard, and the exception as well, those few who are excellent rhythm guitar players, which is more important, because there's more discipline there actually, because you have to slog your way through something which is usually less complex, and you have to give it your full attention. You're not just living in the moment, you're living a few beats ahead all the time, and you're taking care of business in a very tidy way as you're muting off chords, making sure that or instinctively, which we'll get to, the muting, everything is tight, everything is nice. You look at this, or you listen to it rather, back in the day for me, because the only time I could ever see it would have been on MTV around my friend's house, and I was fascinated, so I took that opportunity every time. One exercise after another, through daily repetition, and obviously daily repetition is the only way to get good at anything. Perhaps that right-brained, whatever, that some extra dimension of the self which is almost entirely hidden most of the time, just keeps getting better, keeps making very small, minor adjustments that you couldn't formulate, you couldn't write it down, you couldn't say, well, yesterday I realized that this particular, technique on the fretboard or whatever, it's just started to click in the area of, the stretches of the fingers, or the timing along with the metronome. There's, it just happens gradually over the weeks and months and years. You get better. Now, playing guitar is a somewhat conscious act, but there's a lot there that is just unconsciously kind of, the repetition, the feeling the vibe, knowing the fretboard, remembering the song, whatever. In vacancy, or the void, or whatever, like, this is not going on. But that higher dimension of improvement, that is going on. In other words, you can't formulate a strategy, you can't write it down, because of the repetition and the training and the statements of intent. Gradually, because you are not completely you, or at least from the point of view of the personality, you are something extra, something different. You're rooted within the personality. You're this action in the world that is given a name and has developed a will, and all the biology of thousands of years before you, and all this. You don't completely understand yourself. You can't. Science, it gets so far, but it cannot. We live in a mystery. That's the way things will always be. We live within a wider mystery. Something is working through us, and this mechanism, this extended evolution, whatever you want to call it, it has its way of making incremental, tiny changes. So, without strategy, sitting in perfect posture, just doing a few reminders here, that stillness, that intention hanging in the air, about to not so much do, but to be nothing while the posture auto-corrects. There is no strategy. You are relying on the intention to influence this extended evolution, this hidden learning process, to gradually make its incremental changes. And that is why you have to be regular. This is why you have to be at it every day. This and many other, similar things, of course, but we're talking about this one particular desire to achieve complete emptiness, this nothingness, this void. your mind, your brain, your soul, your perhaps, I'm sure as well, your spirit, they're all working together gradually, incrementally. You won't entirely understand it. It's like, well, here we are again with the application of effort, because this effort, it's a strange contradiction, because it's like there is some kind of consistent effort involved from beginning to end, but it's a bit like, I don't know, it reminds me of Eastern philosophy. It's like a gentle extremity. It's like you have to live a contradiction in this moment without examination, of course. There is an implied or applied rather intensity to the operation when this higher learning, this gradual evolution, this higher evolution is doing its thing. Parts of the mind, you can actually feel them shutting off, and you feel almost a movement within where you're being pointed. And this is something else I should mention: with the eyes closed, the eyelids closed rather, the eyes looking directly ahead without moving. To be looking up, down, left, right, or to be looking around behind the eyelids will confuse the issue. Best to be as still as possible. So there's something about vision and this directed gaze at nothingness, which is somehow being twisted and directed forward as this evolutionary learning is incrementally, like I said, day by day, inch by inch, formulating this internal mental posture towards non-existence. So that's what you engage with and allow to take place, rather than a planned or written strategy. It's I guess you could say it's a right brain thing, if you want to use that analogy. Left brain is for, carrying out physical tasks. There must be some interplay, there always is, whatever. That makes sense in terms of this little talk that I'm dropping. Through the application of effort and this linking process with all aspects of being which are hidden and mysterious, this change, but only through time, only incrementally, will gradually remold the mental posture towards a state of first vacancy, and then over time this vacancy will evolve into a state of non-being, and as I hinted at before, this will produce further internal mysteries. Okay. So why am I making these videos? Well, videos, talks, whatever, these uploads. I thought it was important after these interviews that I've done, because of the adverts on them, and I'll put one of these adverts on the end of this video as well. It's important for those very few rare people who will even bother listening to the end, who are even interested. And let's face it, we're all mental, because you have to be. You have to have something so wrong with you in order to be interested in developing something so right about you. Yeah, it's just another one of those strange contradictions. Yeah. So it's important, if I set myself up, that I just drop a little bit of a vibe of what it would be like to be within my circle, and but in the same way, without trying, through hidden processes and a kind of faith, if you like, these things will have their own direction. Things will happen the way things will happen. So what I'm going to do is as we proceed with interviews, these couple of little videos will be buried. They will be sandwiched between the more entertaining material for those who are genuinely interested. So how am I going to name these? If the first one was Nothing, Just Do It, then I guess, of course, being part 2 to the previous video, Nothing, Just Do It, this one is just accessing the nothing a moment. Nothing via participatory mystic evolution. Let's just give it a long, bombastic name. That will help. That will help keep it more niche, yeah. So, in the rain, in October, the Halloween season, who knows what that will bring. I bid thee good night and take care.